good. We went. I just told the team, we went into this spring with question marks at DN, and I don't have those question marks. Those guys have played with great technique. They played with great fundamentals. They're playing with really good confidence right now, and I think I'm excited about our DNs. I really am. Our offensive line, we've made dramatic progress from last year, but we still got a lot of work to do. And they just have to take kind of a lunch pail mentality and come to work every single day and grind through it. And we just got to be a little bit more competitive on offense. But overall, I'm really pleased. And I told them, they may not see it, and even the individual coaches may not see it, but I do. Looking at it from 50,000 feet and watching all the drills and watching all the competition, I'm just so impressed.
Is there any one defensive end that's really stepped up or that you've been impressed with this offseason?
I think to answer that question, the first thing I would say is Nassib and Sickles, I think, are doing really well. Playing at a high level, really talented, very dependable. But I would say Curtis Cothran and Torrance Brown, to me, are exciting. And that doesn't slight the other guys, but those two guys, for young guys that haven't played, they are flashing some really exciting things.
What about the O-line? You talked about how you like what you're seeing there. What are some of the things that you're liking from that group?
Well, let's be honest. It's understanding where we started. We still got a long ways to go where we want to be, but we're communicating so much better. Last year, because we had really no returning starts, we had one player with returning starts, but none in this offense. No one would get up there and take control and communicate and ID the front and make the calls because no one wanted to make the mistake. Where now they're communicating so much better. They know who to work to now with confidence. But now we just got to get better at all the little things: the pad level, the hand placement, the hat placement, all those things. So, what I'm saying is, last year there was times where they didn't play with confidence at all. Now there's confidence mentally, but now we got to get them to play more aggressive because they're not thinking. They're not thinking about their assignment. They're not thinking about their technique. They're just coming out and playing fast and playing aggressive. So that's the next step they have to take.
Coach,
how about building
off the offensive line? Is Paris Palmer making those strides that you're hoping him to make last time we met?
Yeah, but he's like where the rest of the offensive line was last year. So he's doing some nice things, but he's behind those other guys. He's got tremendous talent. He's put on 5 pounds during spring ball, so we're making progress there because he's kind of different. He has the footwork to get in position and make the plays, but at this level, he can get overpowered sometimes because he's right around 290 pounds. And you guys have seen him. He's 6'8", 290, and he looks like he's 247, right? So I think the combination of experience this spring, all summer working, and then I think he has a chance to be in the 300-pound, the 305-pound range by Temple, and that's going to help because size matters. Mass moves mass, and you can afford to have some mistakes when you have the size. Right now, a guy that's doing some really good things, and I'm really excited about, is Chaz Wright. Really doing some nice things. He's grown tremendously, but he's also 6'7", 330 pounds. So he's able to get movement, he's able to be physical, and he's starting to play with more confidence now.
Are you getting any depth at the running back?
Yeah, I think so. Mark Allen has had a really good spring. He's had a really good spring. I've been pleased with him. Nick has shown some flashes, but he's still got a ways to go. Jonathan Thomas has been limited, and he was the guy going into spring that everybody was really, kind of excited about. But there's going to be great competition. You got all those guys, and then you got the 2 guys coming in as well. So I'm excited, But it's really going to be more about the front, the O-line, and the tight ends, which I'm pleased with those guys as well.
Have you decided yet if you will and open the blue-white game with the kickers and the punters like you had kind of talked about maybe doing?
Yes, we'll do that. We'll do field goals to start the game. We'll have it scripted out, yard lines and hashes and things like that to see how these guys are going to kick in front of the fans. They'll have to get it off in the right time and the whole deal, so it'll be the snap, the hold, and the kick. And then at halftime, we'll do punting. I feel pretty good about our field goals. There's still concerns and questions about our punting. It's not where I think it needs to be. I think our snapping and our punting from the time the season ended to now hasn't progressed the way I think it should progress. So we got to look at what we're doing there and make some changes.
Do you have any reasons for that? I mean, does anything stand out to you as why, or is it just guys not taking the next step?
Well, I think it's a combination of a lot of things. We don't have a scholarship player, in our program right now, and that's no slight to the guys that we have. They're good guys and they're working really hard. But you look at our roster, we got scholarships invested at every position. We don't there. So those guys have to continue to step up. The other thing is, to be honest with you, you look at how the NCAA works. You're able to have a coach assigned to each position, and you got a special teams coach who typically coaches another position and has to coach the kickers. And I don't know if you guys have seen Huff. I would not say he looks like a guy that's got much experience kicking the ball. So we're going to have to do some things with that as well. But a lot of it is that personal responsibility, because that model's been used for years. So they got to take some personal responsibility in that as well. I think Ficken is a great resource. I think some of those guys like that, they all have kicking coaches, so being able to reach out to those guys as well.
How much of an emphasis was it to go out and find these extra punters and kickers? Because it keeps the competition up, and at the same time, if one of these guys isn't working out, you at least have the option to go to somebody else.
Yeah, I see you guys making fun of us on social media and in your articles talking about how many kickers and punters and snappers is Franklin going to bring in. We got like 35 of them. It's the biggest unit on the team, and that goes back to my point. When we got here and we didn't have the scholarships available, and trying to decide what you're going to do, our answer was let's go out and try to recruit as many run-ons, walk-ons, however you want to describe them, and create competition there, and hopefully you find a couple guys. And I think we've done that, but that was the plan. And obviously that model will shift a little bit moving forward.
James, are you any closer to finding a replacement for Mike Hull now that you're getting close to the end of spring practice?
Yeah, again, I don't think one person is going to replace Mike Hull. I think it's going to be a combination. But I like our front. I like our front four, the two deep. I like our probably our first and a half team at linebacker. I thought Naeem was having a really good spring, and he's been limited here as of late. But I thought him and Bell and Kabinda, we're really having a nice spring. I feel like I'm missing somebody too.
Going back to the tight ends, how's Adam Brenneman been this spring? Have you seen any hesitancy from him?
He's been limited.
When you started, you had mentioned that you no longer have a question mark at defensive end. But what are some of the spots that you still have question marks at heading into this last week of practice?
I think depth at tight end. I think offensive tackle, left tackle, is probably the big one. I'd say depth at running back, depth at tight end. And that's probably it. I mean, I feel pretty good where we're at. And then obviously the kicking game.
Was that less questions than you had at this time last year?
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
Less everything at this point.
You mentioned those three linebackers. How interchangeable are those guys at those three positions? Are they all practicing at one position specifically, or are you rotating around?
Yeah, that's a good question. The way we do a lot of things with the offensive line, with linebackers, with DBs, we try to create as much flexibility as we possibly can. That's number one. That's just kind of our belief system, to create depth that way, and dual train guys. We'll do that even when our depth gets better. Obviously, it was magnified and it was more of a priority because of the situation we were in. But there is some flexibility, more with the Mike and what we call the Will, which is they're typically box players, and then we call our Sam the field backer, which is different than a lot of people call it. A lot of people would say the Sam and the Mike are box backers and the Will's to the field. We term it a little bit differently. So that field backer is probably not as interchangeable as the two box backers are. Does that make sense? Correct. Now, if you go spread, that typical box backer needs to come out of the box anyway because they're in four wides. Does that make sense? Or you're in nickel or dime. Although I think Bell is a guy that could possibly grow into a box backer down the road, if that makes sense.
Back to the kickers. What have you seen from Joe Julius, and what do you expect to see out of him in the Blue White game?
Yeah, he's been good. He's had a really, really good spring. He's got a strong leg. He's got tremendous confidence. What I really like about Joe is he's not your typical kicker. Right. And what I mean by that is he was a high-level soccer player. So he is fiercely competitive. I mean, and actually, when the pressure is on him, that's when he likes it the most. Talking to Coach Warming, he was a guy that a lot of people were recruiting all over the country as a kicker. So that's probably what I like the most about him. He's fiercely competitive. He's got a really, really strong leg. When he hits the ball, it just sounds different than the other guys. It jumps off his foot. And he's been really accurate. A lot of times the power guys don't have the consistency. He's really showed both.
Regarding
Can I have
kicker
some water, please? Thank you.
regarding kicker and punter, are those both positions that you'd like to offer scholarships to straight out of high school? Because obviously some coaches prefer to have them prove themselves as walk-ons first.
Yeah, there's a couple different models. The model has changed, I think, a little bit. It used to be no one scholarship kickers out of high school. You'd have a bunch of them come in, and then whoever earned it. Because here's the issue. If you make a mistake on a kicker out of high school, where does he go? Like, you make a mistake, a safety maybe isn't as good as you thought, he can move to linebacker. You got a linebacker that maybe is a step slow, he can move to D-end. D-end who's a step slow, he can move to D-tackle. Where do you put the kicker when he can't kick?
Can he punt?
Well, that's probably another good thing is that's the other thing we want to do is we want to be able to recruit as many guys that can at least be serviceable. If they're a kicker, they can back up your punter. And if you're a punter, they can back up. Because most of those guys did both in high school anyway. So that is a little bit of an answer, but it's not like, what I'm saying is if they can't do that, there's nowhere else to put them. So you got to be careful. So my point is the only time you get scholarship, a guy out of high school, is if he's a no-brainer. He's the #1 kicker in the country. He looks different than everybody else that you had in camp or you've gone and seen in person. That's when you probably would move into that category. If not, I'm hoping snappers, kickers, and punters will have guys that will earn their scholarships, once they get on campus. And every once in a while, you find a guy that's of that caliber, and you're comfortable making that move. You make the move.
Hull was such a strong leader for you guys on defense. Is there one guy or a couple guys who are maybe stepping up as kind of in that role for him?
What's funny is there's different type of leadership.
Right.
And Mike probably said 7 words and 16 grunts in 16 months that I was here. So he led by example, by how hard he worked, by his mentality, by his focus, by his attention to detail. So there's other guys that are actually a lot more verbal, than him in terms of that type of leadership. But I think his leadership was more of his presence than anything and his example. So I think again, I don't think you're gonna replace Mike Hull's production as a player or Mike Hull's presence. It's not with one person. It's going to be a combination of people that fill that role. And in some ways, I actually, in some ways, I feel better about that. I've been on teams where one guy was the heart and soul of the offense, defense, or special teams, and then if that guy's out, everybody's looking around lost. So the fact that I think it's coming from multiple people, just like the leadership council we have. Typically the model is you have 2 captains. We have 6 captains. Typically, you have a leadership council of 9 guys. We have 25. We'll always have all the seniors, and then we'll break it down from there. Because to me, I got 125 players. So to think 2 captains that are going to be the leaders for the entire team, I don't think that's appropriate. Plus, we have leadership in the senior class. We have leadership council in the junior class. We have leadership council in the sophomore class. Because let's be honest, the freshmen aren't always hanging out with the seniors. So you want to make sure you got leadership throughout your team. So to me, there's never enough leadership. There's never enough people I can hold accountable. Not only for what's going on in the weight room, what's going on in the locker room, but more importantly, what's going on Saturday night. What's going on, when they're out together. We talk about those things all the time. So, to me, it's imperative for where we want to go.
All right, thank you, Coach.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.